Namaste and good morning. We'll start our class with the prayers. Om Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Guru Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karvavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Now we'll chant Mahamrutyunjay mantra 3 times to pray for those who are in suffering. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Urvarukam Iva Bandhana Mrutyurmukshiyamamrutat. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Urvarukam Iva Bandhana Mrutyurmukshiyamamrutat. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Urvarukam Iva Bandhana Mrutyurmukshiyamamrutat. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Welcome everyone. Today we have the class 17. We have one more class left after this for this course. What I'm intending to cover today is lesson 23 and 24, so that the next class can be used for any summarization of all the things, as well as any specific topics or questions you may have that you want me to go into details of that. So far what we did in the previous 3 classes, we covered the participles, and those are very important structures in Sanskrit. So we did the present participle and future participle in active voice, Kartari Prayoga, and that is for Parasmaipadi roots. So the suffix we studied was Shatru or At Pratyaya, like Gachat, the one who is going. And similarly the future participle Gamishyat, one who will be going. Then we saw for Atmanepadi roots, the same 2 participles, present and future, and Atmanepadi for Atmanepadi roots as well as for the Karta, active and passive voice, Kartari and Karmani Prayoga. So there the participle was Shanach or Ana. So Lavhamana, one who is getting something, and Gamyamana in the Karmani Prayoga, something which is being gone to. Then we saw the Bhute Krudanta or the past participle. They do not differentiate based upon Parasmaipadi or Atmanepadi verbs, but there are 2 participles here, one for Kartari Prayoga, the active voice, another for Karmani or Bhave Prayoga, but also used in active voice in certain cases. So that's what we saw, and these are all very important concepts in Sanskrit. Particularly this participle ta is used very extensively to make the nouns and adjectives. Generally adjectives, but sometimes those adjectives, when they become very popular, they can also be used as nouns. Today what we are going to discuss is just some more nouns and pronouns. So this is not really so concept rich as we had our previous classes in terms of participles. Today's class is not going to be very rich in concepts, but just in the forms, and therefore it's a little bit difficult because when you discuss so many forms, then how to memorize them and how to remember them. So we'll see. I don't recommend that you memorize all the tables. So Amit Tapasyananji is updating our nominal tables with all the new words which are coming in these two lessons, lesson 23 and 24. So you of course are recommended to refer to those tables and get an idea that how are they used. These are some of the nouns and pronouns which author is covering, and this brings a conclusion to the topic of the nominals in this book almost. I mean, there are other chapters later which deal with some nominals, but for a good part, this is a nice break. And then author is covering in this book, Sanskrit Subodhini, the book which we are following, a lot of verbs in different tenses, different conjugations, and those kind of things. So let's start that. Demonstrative pronouns. We have discussed these things once earlier also, and in class number 7 you have these things, idam for things nearby, but I'll just go over it again today. So there are 4 demonstrative pronouns. In English we have primarily 2, this and that, but in Sanskrit there are these 4. So idam for things nearby, others for distant things, tad is for remote, and etad is for something very near. This distinction of these kind of things is very relative, and in practice there is no scientific definition that how near the thing is, then you have to use idam. How distant the thing is, then you have to use tad. So it is pretty much dependent upon the speaker, how he wants to convey. Not like a very scientific and criteria that what is near and what is remote. And in English also sometimes we have the same thing, that a person, when we are talking of probably in the same room, you could refer to that, and if you feel that he is remote or somebody in the other country, you can refer to this also. So we have seen the forms of these. So idam is more popular. So these two, the tad and etad, this we have seen many times in the past. Tad is sahataute, and I'll just show you first these two. Tad. So tad we saw this is very popular for us. All of us are familiar with this. Sahataute, then in feminine sa te taha, and in neuter tat te tani. So that we have seen many times. That is the most common among all these 4 also. Then etad, which is nothing but you just add the a before. So in all the declensions, you just add the word a, and that it is pointing to the nearest to the speaker. So these two are very similar and used quite a bit. Tad in particular is used the most extensively. Then we have these two, idam and others. Between these two, idam is referring to this and others is referring to that. idam is more popular. So again, this all these pronouns are in all the three genders, masculine, feminine, and neuter. So these forms we have been using also in Gita, if you remember. We have been using many times in our Gita classes also. So ayam, iyam, idam, depending upon the gender. And then you see there are two forms here. And because we have been also doing the Gita classes, you all must be quite familiar that enam, this form is used versus imam. What is the difference? Difference is that when you have referred to something in the previously and then referring to it again, you can refer to it as enam. So these alternate forms are not like 100% alternative, like you can use either of them, but there is a rule regarding these enam, enau, enena, that they can be used when the thing has already been referred previously. So this we have seen many times in Gita classes, this particular pronoun to be used. Then others, not so common. And again, these are just the forms, masculine, feminine, and neuter. Asau, amu, ami, asau, amu, amuhu, like that. We don't have that alternate forms here. As I said, this is the least common used. And one thing here you have to just keep in mind probably, that if you remember, we had this pragruhya sandhi, where the form of the word is not changed. So the rule for pragruhya was that if the dual of a nominal or a verb ends in long u or long e, then it is a pragruhya. That means it will not change the sandhi. So if I say amu, so like if you remember Hari, the nominal declensions, Harihi, Hari, Harayaha. So if it is a dual and ending in ikara, the sandhi will not apply. So if I have to say Hari agachatah, that means two Haris, that means two people whose name is Hari, two Haris are coming. So I will not put the sandhi between these two. That's why it's pragriya. So that is the rule we have already discussed, that dual, when it is ending in ikara or ukara, long e or long u, the sandhi doesn't take place. What happens in case of others, the special this rule applies to even this first person plural, ami also. So just to keep that in mind. That's the special provision Panini has made, that even when you say ami agachanti, those people are coming. You will not put the sandhi between those two. So I'll just show you some examples for this idam. So like in Bhagavad Gita 13:1, idam shariram kaunteya. So shariram is the neuter, that is the body, this body. So idam shariram. So because shariram is neuter, idam is also neuter. So idam, that is the form. If it were masculine, like this tree for example, I am vrukshaha, then it would be I am vrukshaha. In this also, if you look at, Esha tebhihita sankhe. So this word Esha, this. So Esha, if you look at here in our pronoun table, this is this one, Esha, feminine, nominative singular. So why is it feminine nominative singular? Because it is referring to buddhi. That is also feminine gender. So Esha, Esha buddhi, this attitude of mind. And this word I was telling you about, others, ami. So that's where it is used here. Ami cha tvam dhritarashtrasya putraha. So all those. And it is using two forms of this, asau also here. So ami and asau. Ami and asau. Asau is the nominative singular, ami is nominative plural, both masculine. So this verse interestingly has both. It's very rare, but in this verse they have used two times this particular pronoun. So tatha sau, it has become sandhi. So otherwise it's asau. So he has translated the yonder, there, or that karna, yonder karna. So that's a little bit poetic way to put yonder karna. Then another is adjectives of quantity. This is another set of category of nominals. So you see this one here. This is iyat, this much or this many. Kiyat is how much or how many. Tavat, that much or that many. Etavat, this much or this many. Yavat, as much or as many. These are nominals, not pronouns, but they are derived from pronouns. So like as you can see, we have tat. Tat means that. So tavat, that much or that many. Then we have etad. Etad is this. So etavat, this much or this many. And then we have yat. That means as, like one who or as much. So yavat, as much or as many. So from vat, you can see that they are derived from the pronominal forms, but when this word finally is made, it's considered a nominal, not a pronoun. Similarly, kiyat, kim, how much. Iyat, idam, like it is coming from idam, this much, that way. So they are derived from that, but when they are used as these kind of words, they will have all three genders. So feminine nouns are made by adding e to all these, and the base for masculine and nominal neuter remains the same. So iyati would mean the same thing, this much, but when you are referring to this much to something which is in feminine gender. So if I show you the declensions, so that's how the declensions come. Iyat. Before that, I just want to show you something. So you remember, like we discussed this part earlier, that this table of suffixes, and I told you that Panini uses only one table of suffixes for deriving all the declensions, whether nouns, pronouns, adjectives, doesn't matter. This is the common table to derive every single nominal form in Sanskrit. And then there are rules which are applied to derive those forms. So in one way, if you look at grammar of Sanskrit, there are really no exceptions because everything is rule driven. They are just quite a bit of number of rules. Like this kind of a structure you will hardly find in any other language, where there is just one set of the suffixes, and that is deriving every single noun, pronoun, and any kind of nominal declensions. So when we study Panini grammar, we of course memorize this particular table, just the suffix tables, and also the understand the rules, how do they get applied, and then forms are automatically driven. People do of course memorize some common forms, because every time you derive it takes time, but technically it can be done. Technically you just have to understand the rules and suffixes, and you can derive every single nominal form. So in this, like if su is the suffix, this just sakara that remains as the suffix. So this is the what we have it in the blue, that is the final form of the suffix. Like ta, instead of ta only a remains. So that is one thing. Second thing is, we said there are three categories here. First five, they form one category. Then the one which are starting with the vowels, and then one which are starting with the consonants. So 7 is starting with the consonants, 9 is starting with the vowel, and 5 are the first 5. So these are the three categories, and some nominals, they will have slightly different forms in these three categories, like we saw Rajan earlier. Some nominals will have only two forms, one for first 5, another for all the others. And some nominals like Rama or many others, like particularly all the ones which are ending in the vowels, they will have only one form across the whole table, like one stem, so to speak. So whenever we are dealing with the consonant ending nouns, there is a possibility that it could have one stem. That means everything is the same. Everything is based upon single stem. You just keep applying the suffixes to the base form. It could have two stems. Two stems mean that these 5 will have some rules, because of which either a vowel will got elongated, or an additional letter will come into play. So for example, here if you look at iyat, it becomes iyan, iyantau, iyantaha, iyantam, iyantau, iyataha. So you see nakara that comes in between, and only in these 5. All others are, that is not the case. So that kind of thing may be there. And in some cases, we'll have 3 different logic of deriving the forms, one for first 5, another for vowel initial, and still another for consonant initial. So that will be considered like a 3 stem. So that's how the terminology author has referred to in the book. When you read the book, that 1 stem now consonant nouns, 2 stem, and 3 stem. Sanskrit per se doesn't have originally, like Panini doesn't have this terminology. Panini, as I said, just has these suffixes and tells like there are rules which are going to make the change in the forms depending upon which particular suffix and which particular word coming into the play. But for some persons, this might be useful, that 1 stem noun, 2 stem noun, 3 stem noun. So just understand that's where the terminology is coming from. As far as application is concerned, that doesn't matter at all, whether it's a one stem, 2 stem, or 3 stem. It is just the forms. The structure may change, but the application of, like, this always remains nominative singular, whether it is, and its use is also the same, irrespective of whether it is a having a special logic to bring nakara in between in the word or not. So these are the forms. I will not go over the forms. The only good thing about this is that because this becomes iyati, it is always derived. So because it becomes a vowel ending noun, and that is the good thing about feminine nouns, that most of the feminine nouns, they will have vowel ending. They will not have the consonant ending. And because they are vowel ending, it is, we already are familiar with the declensions, and there are no exceptions here. They are declined exactly the same way as the Nari, for example, we had already studied multiple times. Vowel ending nouns. So these are the, that's how the others are also derived. Tavat, etavat, yavat. So as I said, we will update the nominal tables to reflect these forms, and you can also look at in the book like yavat, yavan, yavantau, yavantaha. So, and again feminine becomes yavati, so that becomes easy to decline. You don't have to memorize anything separate to that. When you study Panini grammar in original, that time you can easily appreciate that how these forms are derived, and there is a logic which you can use common across the board. So it's not like a memorization, it's more like understanding there. But right now it may look like a lot of memorization. So we'll see if there are some examples of this. And these are not very common, by the way. So all these adjectives of quantity, of course, wherever there is a need, they do use them, but not very common in the text. So for example, here in Bhagavad Gita, this is the verse 1855, Bhaktya mam abhijanati yavan yaschasmi tattvataha. So yavan. So if you look at yavan, this is the yavan. Yavat. Yavat means as much. So as much I am, that is yavan. Asmi, I am. So what and who I am. So in that sense it is used. There are two examples from Guru Gita. They also use it here. So एवं श्रुत्वा महादेवी गुरु निंदाम करोति यः स याति नरकम घोरम यावत chandra divakarau. So this yavat becomes yavach because of the sandhi. Yavat chandra divakarau. So as long as there are sun and moons. So in that sense it is as much as, or here because it is more related to the time, so as long as Chandra Divakarau, the moon and the sun, they are like, idea is that as long as there are sun and moon means very, very long time, one will suffer. So this is from Guru Gita. And another is this one, Yavat Dehanta Kalosti. So this again becomes Yavat instead of Yavat because of the Sandhi. Dehanta Kalosti. Tavat. So this is also quite common when Yavat and Tavat, they come in pairs. So Yavat as much and Tavat is that so long. So like here, as long as or until, and so long, till then. So in that sense also it is used. So Yavat Dehanta Kalosti means until it is the time for the end of the body. Till then, O Devi, one should remember Guru. Another, so I'm taking all these examples from the scriptures. Then another is Etavat eva jignasyam. So etavat. So yavat. So exactly the same way etavat also would be formed. Like yavat, tavat. So all in that sense they are very similar. Like if you learn one, you can understand others also. So etavat, etavan, or If it is in neuter, then it will be yavat or tavat. So here it is etavat eva jignasyam, that which remains in every. So tattva, and here the verse is, it is from Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavatam, not from Gita. That yat syat sarvatra sarvada, that which remains in every place and time. Only this much is to be inquired. So only this much. So etavat eva, only this much. So eva is only, etavat is this much. So this much, this is the translation of etavat. So this is only this much is to be inquired by the seeker of self. What? That what is that which remains in every place and time. If one just inquires this much, this verse is saying that's enough. So these are the adjectives of quantity. Then there is a pronoun called honorific pronoun. Bhavat in the masculine and bhavati for the neuter. Even though it is referred to the person whom you are speaking. So for example, you could say, and bhavat also will have the so bhavat will have the similar form. Bhavat, bhavan, bhavantau, bhavantah, bhavantam, and for the feminine it is bhavati, and because it becomes ikara, the forms are declined the same way. So for example, I can say bhavan gachhatu or bhavan khadatu, let me say. So if I say, for example, bhavan khadatu, now khad means to eat, and khadati, that means when he eats. Khadatu is the lot lakara form. So like gachat, gachatu, it's a lot lakara. That means may he go. Gachatu means may he go, because it's the third person singular. Similarly, khadatu, may he eat. But here, when I say it in bhavan, it means please eat. You may please eat. So even though it refers to the person whom I am speaking, but it is considered an honorific, that I am talking in the third person. Like in the court, many times they say, Your Honor can do this. So there it is spoken in the third person. So in the same sense, this is a honorific pronoun which is spoken in the third person, and therefore the verb also comes of the third person. So if there are multiple people whom you want to speak like that, you will use the third person verb forms, not the second person verb forms. So second person verb forms are reserved only for the word tom. And many times you will see in the text, these two things are mixed. Like sometimes the speaker could say bhavan, sometimes he could say tvam, and like that. So this is particularly many people who try to learn speaking Sanskrit, they use bhavan because it is easier to use these forms to remember the third person forms than second person forms. So, but in texts, you will find more use of the second person forms. Sometimes you will see the third person forms with the bhavan. So for example, I'll show you Gita 108. So you see this word bhavan. So here the Drona is telling, Duryodhana is telling Drona that who are all the warriors on our side. So first he says Bhavan, yourself, your honor, or whichever, like yourself. Here the translation is yourself. So then he says yourself and Bhishma and Karna, like that. So this could be a little bit many forms. It can be overwhelming. So I just want to give you a break, like in terms of if you have any questions, you please send me the questions. So far whatever we have discussed, if there are any questions, please send it across. Okay, no questions, then we will move forward. There are certain suffixes in Sanskrit which refer to possession of something. So one has something. One of the very common suffixes, so there are three we are discussing here. Vat. Remember, vat may be coming like here also, eta, vatava, so that is different. We have to see. So this is typically used after a qualitative noun to make it like one person has that thing, or it could be even a normal noun like dhana, but some quality, some object or quality that one may have. So generally it is used in that sense. So vata is the one form, one suffix which is used. Then in, balin. So bala is the strength, one who has the strength. Then mat. So these are the three very popular ones. Mati is the intelligence, one who has the intelligence is mati, mat. So mati. So bala is strength, one who has strength, balin. Also can be used balabat. So you see, both suffixes can be used in certain cases, balabat or in. Bhagavat, one who has the bhaga. What is bhaga? Bhaga is, if you remember in our scripture class, once we discussed this, that these are the 6 qualities which are known as bhaga. So that's why Bhagavat, Bhagavan. So Aishwaryasya Samagrasya Dharmasya Yashashaha Shriyah Jnana Vairagyayoshchaiva Shannam Bhaga Iti Rana. He that possesses these 6 attributes of absolute. That means absolute sovereignty, absolute dharma, absolute fame, absolute wealth, absolute knowledge, absolute renunciation is known as Bhagavan. So this word Bhagavat, it is declined and it becomes Bhagavan. So just like Yavat, Yavan, it is declined in the very same way. Gatavat, Gatavan. So if you remember here, it is very similar to this one, Gatavat. We had this one, Gatavat. So Bhagavat. So both are ending in Vat and both are declined exactly the same way. Gatavan, Bhagavan, Bhagavantau, Bhagavantaha, like that. But the meaning is different. Gatavat is a participle, means one who went, and the Bhagavat is actually referring to a nominal way which indicates a suffix that a person possesses something. So the forms are similar, but the meaning and the way it is made also is different. So these 6 attributes, that's why we say Bhagavan, the Lord. He has all these 6 attributes in totality or in absolute. All of us have these attributes. All of us have some sovereignty, some dharma, some fame, some wealth, some knowledge, some renunciation, but not in absolute. Lord has all these things in absolute measure. So he is called Bhagavan, Bhaga. So Balavan, similarly it becomes Balavan. For feminine, it becomes E, Bhagavati, Balavati, like that. Similarly, Matiman, Matimat. So the difference between Vat and Mat is that when the previous word is ending in Akara or Akara, and this is just a general rule I'm telling you, then it is Vat, otherwise it is Mat. So when the previous word is ending in Akara or Akara, then it is Vat, otherwise Mat. So Mati Mat, one who has intelligence. So Matiman, Dhiman, very common. So these kind of nouns are very commonly used. Balin. So here the declensions are a little different, and particularly for nominative singular. Others are okay. So I'll just show you. So here is the Balin. So Bali, Balinau, Balinaha. So first one you have to just remember it Bali. So it is, that's how it comes. We have this word yogin, yogi, coming from the same thing, one who has yoga, that is yogi. So where the word is yogi coming from? Same, yogin. So the pratipadika, the base word is yogin, and then the nominative singular becomes yogi, and the feminine becomes yogini, like that. Even the sannyasi, when we say sannyasin, so sannyasi, very commonly used. And the thing which you have to just keep in mind is the nominative singular in masculine as well as in neuter also. It is a little different. Others are recognizable relatively easily. So nominative singular becomes Bali. It sounds as if it's a feminine noun from ikara, but that's how it comes. It's a masculine noun. So so many words which you see are being used in masculine ending in ikara, just think that there could be a possibility of it having a possessive kind of noun, balin, like that. Somebody possesses some quality. So these are of course very commonly used, these words, and they are declined also in the fashion we have seen earlier also, particularly Bhagvat and Balin. There is some difference. Then there are some directions, adjectives of directions. So 4 directions are Prach for east, Pratyach for west or backward, Udach is for north and upwards, Avach is for south or downwards, and Vishwach is all around. There are many other words also which come in the similar fashion. I'm just taking a sample of them. And feminine nouns again are easy. They are made by ending E. So Prachi. So Prach, Prachi. And if you look at here, that's how they are used. Prach, Prachi for the east direction. Generally, when we just refer to the direction east, because the word for direction is Disha, that is a feminine, generally you will use the feminine nouns. Prachi for east. So when we say Prachi Parikrama in India, those who might have gone for Prachi Parikrama, so that's where it refers to the whole name is Prachi Saraswati. That means Saraswati, the river Saraswati of the east. So Prachi, Pratichi for the west, Udichi for north, Avachi for south. These are just the words. There are many words for directions in Sanskrit. So this is not the only one for east. There are other words for east also. But these are also there. Prachi, Pratichi, Udichi, Avachi. And here it becomes Vishwach becomes Vishuchi. So why Pratyach becomes Pratichi, not Pratyachi? As I said, there are certain rules. other rules which are there to derive. That is just a general thing that it becomes ending in ikara, but then there are other things which come into play which decide what is the final feminine form. These have some specifics regarding the declensions. So like pratyaj. So I'm just taking one example here, pratyaj. And here it has pratyang. That's how it comes. Pratyang, pratyanchau, pratyanchah. So this nakara comes in between, and because it is followed by chakara instead of nakara, it becomes nyakara because it is in the same varga. For first 5 forms, you see, for first 5 forms. So just keep that in mind, and in neuter it becomes pratyak. So as I said, we are not going to discuss every single rule which is going to give rise to these forms. Just keep these tables, and some of the common ones you might getting used to. So similarly others also. So pratichi becomes easy because it's ikara. There are no specific rules for declensions. It's very simple. Then this is important, degrees of comparison. So in English we have comparative. We use, for example, tall, taller, tallest, like that. Superlative is tallest. So tall, taller, tallest. Small, smaller, smallest. And when we cannot put this er and est in English, we use the word more, like more beautiful, most beautiful. We don't say beautifuler or beautifulest. Could say that though, but generally in English that is not there. In Sanskrit, we have 2 suffixes for indicating the comparative. You know, Sanskrit is a very rich language, so one is not enough. Somebody asked the question that why there are so many words for king, because Guruji says it is like this. Why Sanskrit has so many words for water, hundreds of words for water? Because when you go to a king's palace, when king hosts you and you are the guest of the king, he will put hundreds of dishes in your honor. Even though you can just have 1 or 2 dishes to have your fill, your stomach will be filled. But then Sanskrit is a royal language, it offers you multiple possibilities. And other languages are like, they work because one can fill their stomach, but they don't have so many options. So this is just a fun, just a playful take on Sanskrit and other languages. But Sanskrit does have a lot of varieties, that is true. This tara and es, these are the 2 comparative, and tama and ishtha for superlative. Es and ishtha are less common. Tara and tama are most common. So for example, I can have, if I have a word called sundara is for beautiful, then all I have to do is sundara is beautiful. Then I can have here sundar tara, more beautiful. And here I can have sundar tama, most beautiful. Because as you can see, both tara and tama, they are ending in akara. So their declensions are very similar to like Rama ending in Akara. So the declensions are easy for these words. The feminine forms for these are, so feminine forms are Sundartara and here Sundartama. So these are feminine. So these are also ending in Akara. So these are again declensions are simple. For ES and Ishtha also, because it's ending in Akara, that is also easy for superlative, though less commonly used. It is the ES which can pose a little challenges because it ends in consonant. And here, for example, and it's not used for every single noun. Like Sanskrit has certain ways to figure out that which noun would be used more for which. So Tara and Tama are most common and generally can be used with almost all the nouns. But ES and Ishtha, there are certain nouns which they can be used with. The list is given for our own purposes in the book, textbook. You could refer to that. So like Laghu. Laghu is a word for small. So you could say Laghutara for smaller, or you could say Laghiyas. Both means smaller. And when you see the feminine forms, you will say Laghiyasi, that is a smaller feminine noun. So that's how it goes. I'll just show you how the declensions go for the Laghiyas. So they are like this: Laghiyan, Laghiyansau, Laghiyansaha. You see, this pattern is kind of a little common, that Nakara comes. So in the first 5 forms. Laghiyansam, Laghiyansau, Laghiyasaha. And as I said, the feminine is the very similar. Feminine is Laghiyasi, so there are no exceptions in the declensions. In the neuter, you will have to keep that in mind, that Laghiyah, it becomes Laghiyah, Laghiyasi, Laghiyasi, Laghiyansi, like that. Then there are some others. Again, I'm not going to go into a great detail for these, but there are some nouns ending in vas, with vas, for learned person, and Vidushi is the feminine form. So with vas and Vidushi, and this is the word comes from Vidwan, which is a very popular word in Sanskrit and also in many other Indian languages. Vidwan means the learned person. So it's coming from vidvas. Vid, if you remember the root with means to know. So that's how it is coming from. So Vidushi for the feminine, Vidwan is the masculine. So these are the declensions for Vidwan. So with this, I just want to ask if you have any questions. So there is a question, is this Bali and Bali Chakravarti same? No. So Bali Chakravarti refers to the name of a king. So what person is asking this Bali? Bali. So Bali is this is simply a nominative singular for saying somebody is strong. But Bali Chakravarti, that is the name of a king who is basically Bali Chakra or Bali Chakravarti. That is typically written with the ikara, not ikara. There is a question, Sundaratara is the beautiful masculine. Is there a Sanskrit word for handsome? This is how it is used for handsome, because you see, beautiful based upon the feminine, you will use Sundaratara, and for masculine, you will use Sundaratara. So that's how you can use it for the handsome. So there's a question. So for comparative, one can use either Tara or the ES endings. Yes, ES one can use either, but ES is not used in every case. Tara is much more common. There are certain cases where ES is used. In that case, you can use either. So, as I said, there are a lot of words, and Tapasya Nanji is putting a lot of effort to update the nominals tables so that you could have, but you can also refer to the book. Book also has the declensions of all these forms. So here the way it is used, this particular word, so if I say Krishna is more beautiful than Rama, then you will say Krishna, then Rama. So typically Rama comes in the fifth case. So Ramat Sundar Taraha, and Asti would come as the implied verb. Many times that is missing. So Krishna Ramat Sundar Taraha. So in the text, many times you will see that Asti is assumed, but you should, technically Asti would be there. Krishna Ramat Sundar Taraha. Krishna is more beautiful than Rama. Sita is the most beautiful woman. So one can say Sita Sundartama Nari, and Asti again. We can use Asti, or sometimes it is just implied, that not explicitly mentioned. Then you could say that this fruit is smaller than that fruit. So now we can use this and that, these forms which we studied, idam and others. So this fruit, so because fruit is neuter, not in the, like the word for fruit is neuter, not that fruit is neuter. Like in Sanskrit, it is the specific word which is neuter. So idam, we will use idam. So idam phalam, then smaller is laghu taram, then that fruit. So that fruit will come in the fifth case. So what will be the fifth case here? For that, if I use the so let's say if I use this form, so I have to use the fifth case here also, amushmat. It's a neuter, fifth case, singular, amushmat. So normally that comes before the comparative adjective. So amushmat falat lagutaram. So idam phalam amushmat falat lagutaram, because when you say that fruit, that being an adjective follows the noun in the case and gender and the number. So falat or amushmat. If I say this tree is the smallest, so again if I use this, the tree is masculine. The word for tree in Sanskrit is masculine, bruksha. So ayam bruksha, we have to use the masculine adjective. Ayam bruksha. So ayam bruksha lagu tamaha. That's all. So this tree is the smallest. Ayam bruksha lagutama. Like that. So that's how you'll use. Okay. So we have a class work here. Please, you have to refer to the book because all the vocabulary etc. would be in the book. So please do refer to the book in order to solve this. Whatever you can solve, and then we'll try to solve them after the class break. So right now it is 10:02. We'll have a 12-minute break, like 10:15. So in the meantime, you can also feel free to send the questions, and I'll answer those questions on the chat in the chat window. But try to solve, even if you try to solve one or two, that would be good. Welcome everyone. So before we start solving these things, I just want to tell you that as the last class of this course would be next class, or next class would be the last class for this course, class number 18, as we already had discussed earlier. As far as lessons are concerned, today we have finished all the lessons from the book up to 24. That was our objective for this course, because there is a logical conclusion of most of the nominal forms. In the next class, the concluding class, I want to take a summary, as well as I want to also take any of the questions or topics which you want to discuss in slightly more detail. So please feel free to send the email that if there is something which is not very clear to you, and you would like me to do a little bit more detail on that, I can do that. But it's better that you read it first also from the class notes, as well as look at the video, so that you can understand. We cannot, of course, have the repetition of the class, but I can definitely, if there is some particularly sticking points which I cannot reply on the email, and it is something which is of common interest to many people, then I can explain that in the next class, concluding class. So this one, if you look at now, as you can see that many of the concepts which we studied in the previous classes, they are coming into play. And in order to solve these exercises, you have to not only understand the concepts from these lessons 23 and 24, but also from previous lessons. So in that sense, this book is a very good book, that it keeps on building in your exercises those concepts. So here, if you look at the word bodhami, that is the verb form that I know. Both is the, so it's a both is the root to understand, to know, and bodhami is I know or I understand. So and what is bhashitam? Bhashitam is the past participle. So if you remember, it's the ta pratyaya. Hasit, like hasita. Has is to laugh, and hasita. Similarly, bhash means to speak. Bhashita. So bhashitam. Vachanam, it is neuter. So it is bhashitam vachanam. na bodhami. So I do not understand the spoken words. Bhagavata buddhena. So this is the third case, buddhena, by Buddha, and Bhagavata is the third case also, Bhagavat. So that is the word which we studied today. Bhagavat, Bhagavata. So third case singular, Bhagavata. So Bhagavata buddhena, by Lord Buddha. So the meaning is, I do not understand the words spoken by Lord Buddha. Similarly, you see Yavata Dhanena. So typically then ta a, because that was our like ta a. So third singular is a. This is just an indication because there could be many forms which are ending in a, but you get an idea that for a consonant ending form ending in a, there's a good likelihood that it could be instrumental singular. So Yavata Dhanena. Dhanena is also, of course, instrumental singular of Dhanam. Munish Tushyati. So this is one clause because the verb comes here. Tushyati is the form of the third person singular. Tush dhatu. Tush means to be pleased, to be satisfied. So by as much, Yavat means as much. So by as much money, a muni, a sage is satisfied. So by as much money, a sage is satisfied. Tavata tomna tokshasi. By that much. Tavata means, so again it is yavata, tavata. Many times they come in the relative and correlative clause. By that much you will not be satisfied. By that much you will not be satisfied. Tokshasi, that comes in the future tense. So this is Pita Putram Upagamya Avadat. So the way this word is here, Pita Putram Upagamya Avadat. That's how it is. Pita Putram Upagamya Avadat Ayushman Bhava iti. So Pita is the father. If you remember those nominal tables, Pitru. So Pitru is the Pita is the nominative singular, father. So father spoke, avadat. That is the past tense of the vad. Avadat, father spoke. To whom? Putram. Putram is the second case singular. So father spoke to the son. Putra is the son. So father spoke to the son. Upagamya, approaching. So approaching the son. Approaching Putram Upagamya, approaching the son, father spoke. So Ayushman Bhava. So Bhava is the verb form and it is a lot lakara, like Gacha, Bhava, be. So it's coming from Bhu Dhatu. Bhu means to be. So Bhava, be. Ayushman. This is coming from mat. We discussed earlier this mat, the possessive one, bala, mati mat. So Ayushmat. So it becomes Ayushman. So Matiman, the nominative singular, becomes Ayushman. Ayushmat. Ayush means life. So be with a life. Have a life. That means have a long life. Everybody has life. But have a long. That normally this mat pratyaya, that just doesn't indicate that somebody has something. Like when we say somebody is balavan, balavat, it doesn't mean that he has strength, because everybody has some strength. That means that person is really strong. So in that sense, so similarly when we say matiman, one who has intelligence, everybody has some intelligence, but this indicates one who has good amount of intelligence. So Ayushman also one who has a long life. So father spoke, Ayushman bhava, be with a long life, or in English we will say live long. May you live long, like that, because it can be used, may you live long. Because in lot lakara can be used for command as well as for the wish. So you cannot command somebody that live long. So it will be more like a wish, like a benediction, that may you live long. Ayushman bhava. Idam kamalam sarveshu kamaleshu sundartamam bhavati. So idam kamalam, we have already seen this kind of construction. Idam is the neuter because kamalam is the neuter. So this lotus, sarveshu kamaleshu, as you can see from the suffix, it is shu, like rameshu. So it is seventh case plural. Sarva means all, kamala means lotus, and the sixth case plural and seventh case plural. So both sixth case plural and seventh case plural, when you have these words, they can be used that among. So when you are identifying one out of many, normally you use the sixth or seventh case. Both are okay. So here it is used seventh case, that among all the lotuses, Sundartamam, the most beautiful. So this lotus is the most beautiful among all the lotuses. Asmat sundar taram kamalam jagatin maya drushtam. This is a little bit involving a lot of concepts. So asmat. So asmat is, as you can see, like it kind of gives you a clue, like ramat. So it's a fifth case singular, and fifth case singular of ayam or idam also. Idam. In this case, it will be idam, neuter, because it's a neuter. Asmat, fifth case singular. So compared, as I said, for comparison purpose, because we see this comparison, Sundar Taram, then fifth case is used, and compared to this. So compared to this, more beautiful, Sundar Taram, Kamalam, lotus. So more beautiful than this, more beautiful lotus than this, Jagatina Maya Drushtam. Now what is Jagati? I don't know if any of you can recognize this, but Jagati is, we saw this like Marut, Sarit, Jagat. This is a neuter word, Jagati. This is the seventh case singular. This is not a verb form. So you have to be just careful. Sometimes in the nouns which are ending in takara, the seventh case singular, it also ends in ti, just like a verb form like gachati. So but the meaning and the structure and the connotation, they are completely different. Jagati means in the world. because it is the seventh case singular. So in the world, na means not, maya, by me, it is the third case singular, instrumentation singular, and drushtam. Drushtam, if you remember from our previous class, it's a past participle, not seen, like past passive. It's used in the passive right now because it is maya, used with the third, the subject is in the third case, so it is passive. So maya drushtam, not seen by me. So a lotus more beautiful than this is not seen by me in the world. You can make the sentence in English a little bit more English like, if you think a little bit better structure, better rearrangement of the words, but the idea is this. Shastram shastrat baliyah. Shastram shastrat baliyah. So shastram is the neuter noun, shastra is the scripture or the holy text. It's a first case singular. Shastrat, it is the fifth case. So like Ramat, why it becomes dakara? Because of the sandhi rule. It is baliyah. So before bakara, it becomes takara, becomes dakara. That's a consonant sandhi rule. So shastram shastrat baliyah. What is baliyah? So that is something which we had from today's lesson. Balin, one who has. So this is actually comparative. Laghiya, like this. Baliyas. So he has used this particular es for the comparison. So laghi an for smaller, laghi yes for neuter, and it becomes laghiyah. So it becomes baliyah because it's a neuter, more powerful. Bala is the strength or power, so more powerful. Baliyah. Why is it neuter? Because shastram is neuter. That's why it is qualifying shastra. So it is also neuter. Neuter first person nominative singular. So what does it mean? The scripture is more powerful than the weapon. Shastra is the weapon. So the scripture is more powerful than a weapon. Because it's coming iti, I'll put the in the quotes. Iti dhimanto manyante. So dhimantaha, it is the dhimantaha becomes dhimanto, the sandhi rule. And it is also something which we saw today. Bhagavat, Bhagavantaha, Dhimat, Dhimanta. It is a mat pratyaya. That means one who has something. Dhi means intelligence. So Dhimat means intelligent person. Dhimanta means many intelligent person. It's a plural. Because manyante, you can see this is also a plural verb form. Manyante. So manyante is consider or think. So wise people. Thus, so wise people consider. So you can, in English normally we can put this later. So wise people consider the scripture is more powerful than a weapon. Shastram eva shastrat balavattaram iti nirpash chintayanti. So here also it's iti. Like if you do this sandhi vichcheda, शस्त्रम एव शस्त्राद बलवत्तरम इति नृपाः चिन्तयन्ति. So it becomes नृपाः चिन्तयन्ति. So nrupaha is the kings, chintayanti is a plural form. So kings think. So wise men consider, wise men think, and kings also think. What do kings think? So kings think iti nrupaः chintayanti. So this is kings think. Shastram eva shastram eva shastrad valvattaram. So this valvattaram. So here he has used two nouns, two suffixes. So bala we know is strength, and then vat and tara. So bata is the possessive, that means one who has the strength, balavat, and tara is the comparative, more strength. So in here it is the two suffixes are used, one for possession, one for comparison. So now if you understand this, the meaning is pretty simple. Shastram is the weapon and Shastra is the scripture. So kings think a weapon is more powerful than a scripture. That's the king think. That's what the kings think. So mama vidya tava vidyayaha gariyasi. Gariyasi, this is es pratyaya. This is comparative suffix, and laghi yasi. So like it is a feminine one. So laghi yasi. Gari yasi. Gari means, so laghi means small, gari means greater. Guru, it's coming from the word guru. Guru gari yasi. So mama vidya, my knowledge is greater than your knowledge. Vidyayaha, it is the fifth case singular. So tava is the yours, mama is mine. So my knowledge is greater than your knowledge. Iti kavina bhashitam. Thus spoke the poet, or was spoken by the poet. Was spoken by the poet. Kavina is the third case singular of kavi. Kavi is poet. Or in English, we can simply say the poet spoke. The poet said, my knowledge is greater than your knowledge. So I hope this kind of gave you some idea that how to translate these sentences. We have both the exercises uploaded for lesson 23 and 24. If there are any questions, please ask. Otherwise, we'll close the session. So if there are no more questions, we'll close the session with the prayers. सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः, सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः, सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु, मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्. ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते. ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. Thank you all.